Welcome to the final walkthrough. We are here with another episode. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Johnny Noriega. Really excited to have a special guest here in the studio, Jaime Frausto. Bienvenido, sir.
Gracias,
How are you?
Gracias.
Thanks for making the trip, man. I appreciate it.
I'm excited.
Jaime is he's a man of all trades. He's a businessman. He dabbles in real estate. He's done numerous flips, owns many long-term rentals, and we're going to continue our topic into investing in real estate and pick his brain a little bit about his experience with all that. And also, Jaime is an example of how hard work into putting money into real estate can help live out your dreams. Obviously, maintaining yourself is a certain goal, but at the same time, if you get into philanthropy, if you get into setting goals a little bit higher than yourself, you could definitely do it with real estate. So first off, again, thank you so much for making the time. I want to first start with the investing side. We've been talking about this in previous episodes of how great real estate is as a tool of investment. And in an area or in a time right now where we have, the media is talking, not the best, right, about the market, like interest rates sky high and the affordability is a huge issue right now for a lot of people. Some might say, well, maybe this isn't the right time to buy real estate, or maybe it's time to cash out or do something. But I feel, or maybe you can dive into it as well. In the beginning, when you were starting off, was the message similar? Was it like, well, real estate might not be the best idea? I know we had the crash back in 2008. So tell me, when you started, how you got started, and was your first purchase like a flip? Was it a single family? How was that? That like?
Yeah. First of all, thanks again. I'm excited to share all these ideas, things that have worked for me. And I think it's important to get it out there. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here. I want to bring value to your listeners to at least be aware that it exists, all these things. So the market has cycles. Right, as we know that. So I just happened to start in the 2008 boom or bust. I started specifically in 2011. And I actually went to one of those seminars because I wanted to educate myself and have an idea because I didn't know anything. I had purchased a rental 7 years prior, but I really didn't know what I was doing. And I knew that if I wanted to get into this new venture, I wanted to learn something because I didn't know. So I did go to some of these seminars that you see on TV, and buy flip without your money. And I got to tell you, it's true.
Yeah, I
got to tell you, I'm a testimony to that. It's just when they say that, they really don't break it down until you go to their seminars. Right?
Sometimes it sounds too good to be true, and I feel sometimes people see those like buy without spending $1, flip without spending $1. So you took the leap, right? You went to the seminar, you educated yourself. Yeah. What was that experience like in the beginning?
Yeah, no. Well, what was very mind blowing is you really didn't have to have your own money. And most of our dreams, when we have dreams, I want to do this, I want to do that, but I don't have the money. Subconsciously, we stop ourselves there. And when I understood that that's true, that you can go use other people's money, my brain started going 100 miles an hour. And just to break it down very simple is if you want to buy a pie and you know somebody that maybe you don't have all the money, but you're ready to do boots on the ground, all the sweat equity, there's somebody here that has the opposite of you. They have money, but they don't have the time to do that. And the only thing is you got to be aware of that cycle that we talked about early. Back then, you weren't getting no interest. Today, it's a little bit more difficult because you have a lot of things against you as a flipper. Why would somebody want to invest right now when they can go 5% on a CD with very minimal risk? I would say minimal risk because there's always risk there. As you've seen the SVB banks that started sharing. So why would somebody want to go and try to get 10%, 15%? So kind of the structure that I was using back then is I was paying up to 15%. So somebody if I would say, you know what, this house, let's buy it for $100. We need to put in $50,000. Let's go raise that $50,000. And what we would offer in return to investors, it would be 15% for the time that we use their money. So now the clock starts ticking, and you want to go and do all of your flips as soon as possible because every day you have to pay interest on that money. So you have to identify those valleys, and you have to try to get on the right side of that valley.
And just to kind of expand on that a little bit more. This isn't your conventional like go to the local bank and apply and get what you're talking about. This is something to where you seek out more private investors, you would say?
I usually start. It's a good idea to start with friends and family.
Right.
Right, and you're right. That's a good point, because if you go buy a distressed home, no bank is going to lend on that, right? They want to lend on something that's stable.
Correct.
Where our first primary home, and that they'll lend on that. But that's not your market as a flipper.
Correct. And I want to. That's actually a great point that you touch on, because the average person, I feel, sometimes thinks that banks are universal in their rules and their lending. So, for example, I would say 90 to 95% of the banks out there, the property that you buy has to be in a livable condition when you close. So whatever repair is needed, if there's a hole in on the ceiling or in the floor looking into the basement, these things have to be repaired before you live in the property. When you're talking more flipping and seeking out more private investors, this is money that can be lent to you, and the property doesn't have to be 100% tip-top shape when you close. So the risk level for those other banks is a lot higher. They don't lend for that, but maybe someone that wants to get into the flipping business may seek out that sort of route for it.
Yes, and then let me give you some examples of who are those private money lenders. Obviously, they're friends and family. Mm-hmm. It's that small business owner, that Allstate agent, that your agent.
Yeah.
It's those people. You'd be surprised when you ask them to bring value to them. Keep in mind that we're bringing value to their money that was getting stale by not working, right? So you've got to understand that those little metrics. At the end of the day, you got to bring value, right? And it feels better, and that's the way it should be. You got to earn the right to say that. So always bring value to everybody.
Right.
And then you're the last one that eats at the table.
Right.
That sounds fair.
Yeah. And when it came to doing like the sweat equity, right? Doing the actual work on it, is it you with like a team? Is it you, because obviously I assume that when it comes to doing this work on the properties, there's got to be some sort of, like you got to go through the city and make sure everything's legit and insurance and all this stuff. So was it just you in the beginning doing all the work, or did you have like a crew that would help you?
We had a contractor.
Okay.
Let them do what they do best.
Got it.
So, and keep in mind that the reason why you want to go that route is because the time is ticking. Once you take that investor's money, the time is ticking. So you want to do this quick.
Correct.
So definitely go with somebody that's done it before. Otherwise, you're going to get into longer. You didn't have the time to do that. So it's definitely, I did it with the contractor.
Okay.
And one of the unique ways, things that we, everybody, when we talk contractors, we all kind of cringe because many people have all these. So we used, and I'm not going to take credit for that, but these ideas that I got from these things, we used where we would go ahead, like every week, they would send me pictures of what they did that week, and then I would pay them on Tuesday. So now that minimizes the risk of somebody taking off with half of your budget. And back then, the work was low, so that was also in your favor as a flipper, right? Because that changes too. Today's, I don't know if somebody's going to accept that, right? Because they have other job offers, they got more work, the contractor. So you got to kind of understand what's in your favor and run with that.
Yeah. And how do you compare that to the other part to it, which is more your long-term rentals? I assume it's the money's not as quick, but it's maybe a little bit less risky, would you say, than?
Well, most people start they start with flipping. But let me tell you, the wealth, I believe, is in long term. Because when you stop flipping, there's some more money coming in, number one. Number two, if you have capital gains, which that's your goal, guess what? You got to pay capital gains taxes. So you got to factor all those things. The wealth is built in buying and holding, because we can go on and on. For instance, when you buy and hold, you get depreciation, a write-off against your income that rent you collected, and you get appreciation. Not always. Don't ever bank on that, but it pretty much all the time. So you have that, and not only that, but what we would do once we had enough cushion of money, then we would go ahead and refinance. We would come out to somebody like you, and then you would put a long-term on there, a long-term loan on that.
It's important to touch on that. You mentioned the capital gains tax. You mentioned, I think it might be, common knowledge for us, but share a little bit of insight for someone that, might not know what that is, bought their first investment 2-unit with the crazy amount of value that we've seen increase over the last couple of years since the pandemic. They might be, salivating of like, hey, my realtor just told me that, I can make like 80, 90 grand and I bought it like 4 or 5 years ago. I'm just going to sell it. I'm going to cash out. What's the caveat there with?
Absolutely. Well, like we said earlier, number one, you're going to pay capital gains. And number two, what are you going to do with that money now? So you got this 70, 80 grand that was given to you by the market. Now what are you going to do? Because you have to continue to put that money to work. So now you inherit a different problem. So typically it's not the, just because it sounds quick and access to money, if you continue to put your money to work, you've got to put it somewhere. And
what's the rate on it right now? Like capital gains, like let's say I cashed out 100 grand. How much is IRS
The rule of thumb is 30%, right?
So they take 30 grand.
That's kind of what we all fit into most of that. 30, 32 based on your income, but 30%.
And this is I've met people that was a rude wake up call when they went to go file taxes because they didn't know.
Sure.
They didn't know that while cashing out, and instead of maybe putting it in a different building, or like you said, doing something else with it, they just threw it in their bank account. And now come February, March, April, when they do their taxes, what do you mean I got to pay X amount? Yeah. So for a lot of people, it's not so common.
And here's the other thing, Johnny, is that if you do decide to keep it and put a permanent loan on it, you pull the equity out. Those 60, 70 grand, pull out those equity. And guess what? That's tax-free.
Correct.
So now you can go and do it again and put that in another one. And that's the way that has worked for me. Now you do get to a point where who's going to manage these, right? Who's going to manage it? And let nobody kid you, it's a pain. Okay, so don't ever fall for, no, that you should consider that.
Yeah.
So how much can you stomach, right? How much can you stomach all these calls, and what are you going to do with it? Are you going to get a property manager? Well, you better, if you are, then you better put that in the equation when you're buying that property, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Me personally, what we've been doing is we've been self-managing. So that's been working well.
Okay. Yeah, and that's also key too, because I feel like us lenders and us realtors in the business, especially on like social media and when we're talking about the business, we romanticize it a lot. I feel, this idea of being the landlord, right, and having a property that pays for itself and live off your rents. And don't get me wrong, it is a positive message, and I think a lot of wealth can be grown with real estate. But I think sometimes what we don't dive into detail is the work. Like you're a landlord now. You have people that you are technically in charge of, that if something breaks, if something happens, like you don't want to be a slumlord, right? You want to make sure that you're able to take care of it, take care of the people, take care of the situation. And I think, knowing those things, kind of people are able to make a better decision whether they want to go the flip route or the long-term rental route.
Yep. So in my particular case, I didn't want no more properties because I told you it comes with headaches, So what I started doing, I started looking into real estate with the same concept of real estate, because it's hard to beat real estate because it's tangible. So I started looking into what else can I do with real estate, but I don't want to be managing it.
Right.
So I started researching groups, and I ended up in some what they call syndications. So now I still believe in real estate. I don't want the calls at night. I want to be totally passive. And there's syndications. That's the right terminology. Syndications sponsors a group of 4 or 5 sponsors that are the ones that actually sign on the dotted line. They pull money together, and that's how they buy apartment complexes. So people don't think that you got to be hands-on. I don't want to be no more hands-on. That's why I stopped accumulating properties. But I still believe in the multifamily, which is real estate. So that's kind of what's working for me now.
Right.
That.
Yeah. And you have to start somewhere, because, when people think about apartment complexes or multi-buildings like that, they think like, well, how do I get there? But it starts with your first flip, your first long-term rental, the equity that it gains over the years. And then you just, again, you put that money to work, because the example you gave with, instead of selling it, getting tax on it, versus you refinance it, you take it cash out. Sure, you might not be able to do 100% of the value, but you're still getting a good chunk out that you can then use for a second or even third property as well. So that's a huge, huge example. One other thing too that I wanted to dive in regards to real estate is the transition you had from hands-on and taking the calls and all this. Now where you are now, it frees up some time. It frees up time. I assume the money that comes in is about equal to when you were taking the calls, if not a bit more. But now it gives you the opportunity to invest in other projects. It gives you the more freedom, more time. So what were the first things that you started to get into when it came to, all right, now I have this passive, business with real estate, which, by the way, passive is passive how you define passive. Passive is not having 3 or 4 multi-units that you're in charge of.
I agree 100%.
Right? Because a lot of people think that.
Yeah, that's a good point,
A lot of people
man.
think that passive income, I've heard it, passive income, make money while you sleep. Passive, in my opinion, passive is like you don't have to take those 3 a.m. calls.
100%.
My basement is flooding, come fix it, right? That's not passive.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm glad you touched on that. But let me tell you what is passive. From my experience in the multifamily syndications, that is passive. Typically what they do there is they go ahead and acquire a property. Let's say like a 100 unit in Texas, which that's where most of the action is happening because of how fruitful Texas is for reasons of economy. So let's say, for example, these syndicators will buy a 100 unit, and let's say for $10 million. They have to go typically put down $3 million. So what they'll do, they'll come out to offer these, they'll put them in an LLC entity, and then they offer it to people like me. And then they'll have a minimum. They'll say the minimum is 40 grand, 25 grand, whatever that is. So they'll go ahead and then if it fits your criteria, then you'll invest that money. Quarterly, they pay your distributions. Accumulated those distributions during the 5 years, which is a very typical commercial loan, 5 to 7 years are very short-term loans that they put on these multifamily. It usually turns over after 5 years or less.
Okay.
Right? What does that mean? That means if you went in for $25,000 on day one, yes, you got some distributions, nothing to sing home about. We call it mailbox money. Mm-hmm. But your big returns come in after they sell it, because now they bought it for $10 million, right? And now they sell it for $15 million. At that point, it's very typical, even till today, that you're doubling your money within 3 to 5 years. It's getting tougher because obviously the interest rates are higher, and it's definitely getting tougher. But even till today, it's very possible.
Yeah, and that's the epitome, I believe, of actual passive income. Mm-hmm. This is something that you can go to sleep and wake up and not think twice about it. And like you said, you get a little bit of the mailbox money, and then in a few years, once it's sold, boom, you have your big cash out. So that's great. Yeah. I did want to ask, you touched on something that's important to note, LLCs. And some people know a little bit, some don't. When it comes to buying and holding properties that you have for investments, what's the pros and cons of having it under, let's say, my name? Johnny Noriega owns 123 Main Street as a 2-unit building, versus I start an LLC and I put the property in the LLC. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So the first thing comes to mind is the liability part, right? So let's say there's an accident, and there's always are, and it's like having a bar and thinking there's gonna be no drunks. So you have to understand where you're at, right? And by the way, I had a bar.
Oh, okay, nice.
And there was drunks.
I'm sure. Where was it?
In Blue Island.
Blue Island?
Yeah,
okay.
Blue Island, Illinois.
Been there a couple of times.
Yep. And so that's the first thing, the liability, right? So it's not a good idea to have it because, yes, you typically want to have like a $2 million liability or something happens. But what happens if you get a lawsuit and that's not enough? What happens if their attorney starts digging? Well, obviously now they're going to go after your 401k, anything that's an asset that you have that's under your name. That's one of the biggest reasons why you'd want to put it in an entity.
Protection.
For protection.
Yeah, for sure.
Asset protection, for sure.
And you are. I do want to note that, some banks do limit your movements with real estate if they are an LLC. So, for example, some banks won't let you cash out to your personal account if it's in an LLC. They'll have you switch it back to the personal, et cetera, whatever you want to do. So there are some limitations, but it's definitely good to look into, especially for protection.
Yeah.
So before we switch gears here, any final thoughts on investing as a whole, or tips, or someone that wants to get started?
Well, I think it's important to know of different alternative ways to invest, right? Where typically we want to have all our money, we want to have it in the bank, and then we want to go do that thing. Just think outside the box. For instance, so I do some of these multifamily investments out of my IRA. Who would have known? Out of my IRA.
I've heard of that.
Yep. So it's not your regular Edward Jones. It's not your 401k, the traditional ones, because they want to keep you in the stock market,
Right.
For their own reasons, right? But there are some. I personally use one that's out of Houston Trust IRA, and that's totally the opposite of your typical IRAs that you do at Edward Jones and those where we call it alternative investment. You can do precious metals there. I get into syndications. Out of there, but you can do all the alternatives that you can't do on a regular IRA.
Wow. That's awesome.
So just be aware of it. They're out there. It's not a gimmick. Just know that it exists and go do your own homework. But I can tell you that I do it, and if I can give you a reference to how and where, that's what I'm all about.
I was just going to ask, do you mind? I mean, after this episode, I'm sure you'll have some people that are like wanting to get information. Yeah. Do you mind if they reach out to you or give you a call or send an email?
Absolutely, they can reach out to me. And
we'll have the contact info after the episode here. So, but that's great because I think a lot of the times this is an example of information that's out there, and a lot of people take advantage of it, but some don't, and not because they don't want to or because they're scared to do it. They just don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know about the IRA. They don't know about precious metals. They don't know about, LLCs. They don't know. So it's great to have somebody like you spreading that knowledge and giving people the opportunity to expand, their horizon. And after they do the research, if they don't want to do it, great. That's fine. At least you know about it. Yeah. But there might be one or two people, watching right now that's like, that's the future. That's Absolutely. What I got to get into.
That's the goal, right? To bring awareness. You may not like everything at the buffet. You choose what you want to eat, but at least know that the buffet exists.
And I love buffets.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Going to Vegas,
like
we're going to Vegas next week. It's one of the main things we had on our list. Buffets. We got to get to them. So, how we touched on earlier in the episode, we talked about the flexibility, the freedom that you get from real estate. Once you start putting your time, your effort into it, you reap the benefits, the rewards of it. And a lot of people that I run into on a day-to-day, the majority of them are in it for, obviously, family is number one, securing their future. Sometimes they have goals of like traveling or like retiring their parents, things like that. You've taken it a step further. And have, dove into like the philanthropy side of things when it comes to your special project, your baby, right? And I want you to shed some light on it, right? It's giveit.net.
Yes.
And when I heard about, the overall message and what it's about, it just blew my mind. Like, why wasn't this available sooner? Can you tell me first how it started, or was it just an idea? Have you done other, projects like this in the past, or was this kind of like your first, like, been thinking about it for a while kind of thing?
Yeah, no. This definitely started through when COVID started.
Okay.
I can tell you exactly where I was at my house and what I was thinking. And when COVID started unfolding, obviously nobody knew what the outcome was going to be. So my mind, being an engineer by trade, I fix things. So my other business, we fix machinery. So my mind is wrapped around fixing and solving problems. So I started identifying the groups that were going to be affected. And givers like me, how do I help? How do I do it in a streamlined, transparent way? Recipients that were going to be decimated by losing jobs or not going to work and losing their pay, and then obviously the restaurants. So once I identified the group, I started seeing how I can put them together to put them in a win-win situation. So at that point, here we go with real estate again. I thought it was going to be just a website because I ended up building an application. Right? So I went back to my Rolodex. If you guys know what a Rolodex back in the days, it was your little, with all your contacts, into my real estate, in the multifamily. And I reached out to Gaurav Kunker, which is my co-founder, and he used to be an executive for EA Sports. And when I told him about the idea of being able to purchase meals, digital meals, quick and easy and transparent from local restaurants and sending them to either an individual that you want to send it or a group like Centro Español, your District 204, your YMCA, and let them distribute it in a digital form. So everything's streamlined. So fast forward to today, we launched the full version almost a year ago. And currently we have Totonilco's on there as a restaurant participating. We have Centro Español. And almost $20,000 worth of meals that were purchased from somebody that somebody claimed in the digital app of giveit.net, and they went with their code to present it to the taqueria or Jody's Hot Dogs, which are some of them. And it's all automated.
Yeah.
Automated. And
Yeah. What's been the immediate response that you've gotten from users on both ends? So whether it's like the actual restaurant that is providing the meals, delivering the meals, or the recipient or person that's receiving or ordering what's been like the first reaction towards it?
Yeah, well, from the recipient is they can't believe it. They're like, "What's the catch?"
Right.
I don't know if you remember that movie. Like, what you talking about, Willis? So we got a lot of that. So just to even overcome that, just take it. Download the app, go and see if there's any available, and claim it into your Giveth wallet, and then go to the restaurant. So that was one of the first obstacles. Believe it or not, that was an obstacle to get them to trust it and to go use it. Today, fast forward to today, when people give and they put it in the first come, first serve, because that's where they want their gift to go. You can't keep enough on there because now we got over close to, I think, 1,000 downloads. So we just expanded over to Lubbock, Texas. So we can't keep up. And now we have plenty of restaurants, and now we're asking the givers to come and give. Because today, the people that need, they look like you and me. You know, we picture a homeless, they look like you and me. This COVID thing really put everything upside down to many people. So that's over close to 1,700 meals have been served. So that's something to be proud of. And if and that's just the part where I'm at in my life today. That's something more meaningful.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, I took some of my winnings from the real estate, and I started this with it.
Yeah. No, and that's something that I want to dive into a little bit more because it's such a unique app. It's such a, simple concept, but I want to make sure the viewer understands. So let's say on the giver side.
Yeah.
So it's me downloading the application. I obviously create my profile and I have my my billing set up to where if I want to send a meal, what does that look like? Is it a dollar amount? Do I have to pick a specific restaurant to give to? Do I even have the option to give it to a specific person? Like, how would that look like on the giver side?
Yeah. No, I'm glad you asked that. So right now there are multiples of $15 meals.
Okay.
Right. So everything's $15 meals. So you get to choose how many meals, and then the next step is what restaurant. What restaurant is your favorite there that you want to, at the same time with your $15, patronize that favorite restaurant? Mm-hmm. And then the third one is, what do I want to do with that? Do I want to text it to my friend? Do I want to text it to that kid that cut my grass? Do I want to give it to my employee? Right? Instead of buying them coffee mugs that go on the shelf, I think they would prefer buying them their lunch from there. So then you can buy it, give it to an individual like now, or you can give it to a group like a Centro Español. So you get to choose what do you do with that. And then Centro Español has their Giveth account, and then they distribute those to the people that possibly don't have technology.
Yeah.
They can print them out, and now they go with this paper. So it's very versatile.
Very good.
And so that's we're doing food right now.
Yeah.
Before the obvious, but once we have that, my goal is to be able to bring different types of service providers. Like imagine the Walmart down there. Imagine the car mechanic that is on there because a young lady can't afford her transmission today.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. So maybe expanding it into those specific type of services to where, if the car breaks down or something and you have the app and it's available to have it, I like the concept that you can give it to a specific person or you just donate it to that specific restaurant as like an order or an item or a dollar amount. You said $15 to give, because most of the time, I've even done it too, where I want to buy my sister lunch, for example. Like I'm feeling good, I'm in a good mood. I want to buy my sister lunch today. So instead of sending her directly some money, you just do the app and you just. Now here's an additional question: can you send it directly to that person and then they can choose?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Well, well, in this particular version, because we're always changing. The tech
Yeah.
startup are always changing. You're always getting feedback. Currently, in this version, you have to choose. You have to choose the restaurant.
Got it.
You
Okay.
have to choose the restaurant, and then they'll get it in the forms that you send it, and then they can add it to their wallet. There's another feature that's pretty cool right now is you can share it. So let's say you send it to me, and I said, man, you know what? Let me send it over to John because he needs to try those al pastor tacos that over with Donilco.
I gotcha.
I could just share that. Now he gets it. And
Very
he goes.
cool.
So it's very versatile, which is a pro and a con.
Yeah.
Because now that makes it a little bit harder to describe what it does and how it does.
Sure.
So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Of all how versatile it is.
Yeah. I was talking to Bianca, part of your team.
Yeah.
And she had mentioned there was a success story about, I don't know if it was a young lady or someone that in the beginning started the application and was someone that would take advantage of the meals and was a recipient of it, a huge help.
Yes.
And just like with anything, time passes, you get into better opportunities, and now she's part of the app, but on the other side.
Absolutely.
Right?
That was mind-blowing because this particular, it was at Nico's Pizzeria. He's part of the group of the restaurants. And when I went there, Nico said, hey, I want you to talk to this young lady that she's given. She just gave it. How did he know? Because when you select a restaurant and you pay for that meal, Scotty gets an alert on his. Everybody, it's transparency for everybody. So so Nico had me talk to this young lady, and I'm telling you that right there, that is the prize. When somebody that your dream helped somebody and now they became a giver, that's a finish line right there for me.
Yeah, yeah. And what's the overall call to action then? Obviously, if you want to be a recipient and take advantage of this, you can look up on your phone. Is it on the Apple Marketplace or is it on like Google phones or what?
Yeah. It's
Androids.
It's on your traditional Google Play.
Okay.
And your Apple Store.
Okay.
Just look it up. It's giveit.net.
Okay.
And the call to action is get involved with your community. Give back because they say in Spanish, hoy por mí, mañana por ti.
Love that.
And don't ever shy away from that. Let's maintain humble. And I know we can do better as a society. If we're good now, imagine what we can do when we continue to come together.
Yeah, no, I love that. And with every episode, I always like to kind of have an eye towards the future. So can you share with me either a personal or professional goal that you have for yourself, either by end year or maybe into next year, or even a 5-year plan that you might want to share? Any goals in the near future for both, either Giveth or real estate or personal that you can share?
Yeah. Well, all my energy and my passion is at Giveth because of the cause, right? It's something bigger than me, and it's something bigger than me. So my goal is to continue pushing Giveth because that's not only my benefit, it's for the people will benefit more. So that's hard to deviate from that. Is it easy? It's not easy, but the prize is pretty phenomenal.
Beautiful. Love to hear it. Thank you for making the time. I know you're a busy guy. Giveth.net is the app. We're going to have all the information, a link on how to download it. We're also going to have Jaime's information on the end of this episode as well. If you have any questions regarding what we just spoke about, real estate, buying a home, investment properties, reach out to us. We're always here for you. And as always, this is the final walkthrough, and we'll see you at the next episode. Thanks for watching.